All right, everyone, welcome to week 10/11. I didn't do an update at week 10 because everything about this time, um, post week 9, has all just been really fluid and it's kind of turned into its own space. And now I recognize like I'm into a new shift, a pivot. But before I get into that, let me just bring you up to speed. So I've been on this 90-day body transformation. Really, it's I'm calling it an opportunity to shift and work with my body in a new way, to understand myself. And like any journey, you find yourself going off these paths, these little rabbit trails that maybe you didn't expect to, but they're kind of where all the juice is, where all the information is, where all the excitement is. It's the stories that you actually end up talking about when you talk about your trip or your journey, right? It's not about, well, I planned to be there at 3 o'clock and then the bus was there at 3 o'clock and I got on and everything worked exactly like I hoped. That's not the conversation that you are sharing with your friends when you get back from your trip. You're talking about how the the bus had a flat tire and then how you had to figure something out and you had to pivot and you change and you had to shift. Well, I now recognize that week 9 is that shift, that pivot. And it's funny because I thought I would just redirect myself and come back, but that's not what happens in a pivot. So here's what happened. Week 9, of course, I got sick and it made everything real wobbly. And starting at week 10, I tried to kind of shift back into my mode that I was in that was working for me. But something set in. And it was a sort of fatigue that I had not experienced this entire time. I'm talking, well, there wasn't really a word for it. It was so strange. After about the third day of thinking maybe, oh, maybe this was just another off day, or maybe, you know, I'll rebound or I'll start feeling better the next day, I realized, whoa, I'm in a new phase here. And how can I describe it? Everything was working in my plan. There was just this deep feeling of something was off now. Like I just didn't have the gas in the tank, and I would most often notice it whenever I went to go work out. It's like the energy that I had to do the workouts, to push the same amount of weight, it just wasn't there. I was having to shorten my sets. I was starting to actually take weight down so that I could get through 3 sets of an exercise. And so it really had me in a loop. I knew that this getting sick and then, essentially not eating and everything that my body had gone through was a thing. And it was going to have a toll, but I didn't realize how deep it might feel. And I was having a hard time distinguishing, like, is this all from that? Or have I stepped into a new phase? And it kind of didn't matter at a certain point. I just realized, okay, I'm in a new phase here and I need to do some more understanding. I need to do some learning. I need to listen to my body and figure out what the next step is. And that's when I found this word that completely encapsulated where I had been. And that word is depleted. And in some ways, it refers to your glycogen stores when you've been in a energy deficit for a long time, whether it's steep, whether it's mild. At a certain point, you are really asking your body to continue in a mode where it's just depleted of its resources consistently. It's not like you are working on stored energy as much in your fat cells anymore. There are all sorts of things hormonally that can start to happen with things like leptin and cortisol. And so there's a lot of interesting things I found out that can happen here in this phase when you just don't have energy left in the tank to continue. And this bothered me because I had heard of physique athletes and like bodybuilders talk about getting to a phase like this um, when they were about a week or two out from competition. And this is where the typical let's just push through it and we're going to grind it out was the prevailing knowledge. I even went to like the Pro Physique Facebook group, kind of saw how other people were dealing with what I presumed might be this sort of experience. And everyone had this sort of like, we're just going to embrace the suck, put our head down and power through. And I thought to myself, like, okay, I've been there before. I've used that mentality before, but that's not what I set out to do here. And I'm not getting on a stage or trying to win this competition or a competition. And so there really isn't a benefit from that push through grind sort of principle. I found I was really enjoying losing body weight, but also getting stronger this entire time. Like that's been one of the most interesting things is how much I'm enjoying resistance training and how much I've been enjoying seeing progression. Like every week, I have seen myself get stronger in one way or the other, and I like that. And that actually applies to my longer year-long goals of getting stronger and putting on some muscle. And so I realized I don't think I want to try to push myself through whatever this phase is, whatever this thing is right now, um, and get my body to a place where I'm really going to be in rough shape, if I continue on in the next week or two. And then, of course, it was doing other things as well, like the sleep disruption and just feeling a little more stressed throughout the day. So it was all negatives basically for what I saw. It's like, these aren't my goals. So what's going on here? Like, how do I solve for this? How do I take care of myself? What does my body need? And so I decided to try out what a lot of people just call a refeed or a carb refeed. And the idea is that, your glycogen stores in your muscles are really depleted. So you don't have as much energy, as much glycogen to use in the gym when you're doing strenuous exercise like resistance training. And the idea of a refeed day is that for one day, you bump up your carbs. There's different calculations and formulas. The one that made sense to me was to add about 100 grams of carbs for one day, see how you felt. And so I did that and I felt better. But when I went to work out, I didn't notice any change. So it was strange. It's like in my body, the next day I felt better. And this is probably some relationship to just like my body getting more food than normal. So that was just like a good dopamine hit, if nothing else, right? But I didn't notice the workout being better. And so I went to YouTube and Google and the different trainers and people that I follow. And I learned that there's been quite a few studies that have shown that like a one-day refeed doesn't do enough to replenish glycogen stores or to increase leptin, the hormone that's really crucial in this state that you find yourself in. And so most trainers said a minimum 2-day refeed. And so I learned that actually the second day. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it one more time. And I felt better the next day. I actually did feel like the next day I showed up and my workout was better than most. I still didn't feel like I was 100%. And I still wasn't sure about how I should proceed. And so at this point, I dropped back to my typical plan, but I still noticed that depleted feeling. And so at that point, I did some more research and I learned about a larger concept that is related to the refeed, and that's just called a diet break. And the idea is that you go back to maintenance calories for a week, some suggest 2 weeks. And this allows your body to hormonally and metabolically sort of like adapt. And so I thought, okay, this sounds right for me. Like I need something else to shift this depleted state. And then I was continuing to research and read, and I learned from Dr. Mike Israetel. And Dr. Mike has this podcast on YouTube where he presents studies, and he's also a competitor and has trained other athletes. And it's interesting because I enjoy some of his content, but he's also a real sort of like power lifter, bodybuilding dude. Again, not someone that I'm trying to replicate their physique or necessarily even how they go about it, just soaking up the knowledge and the experience. But he was the one that said that he generally suggests that when you've lost about 20% of your body weight, then that is a good time to take a diet break. And I thought, well, I started this thing at 210 and I'm about 185. So I'm doing pretty good. I think it might be a good time, like using those metrics to take a diet break. So that's what I decided to do. And the amazing thing was 3 days, was it 2 or 3? Yeah, I was thinking it was 3 days into my diet break. I actually lost another 3 pounds. And so I actually achieved my lowest weight, 182, when I went back to eating more calories. And I was like, okay, how did this happen? What in the world? And I read about it. And essentially, there's a few reasons why people notice that this can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen when you're in this mode. And essentially, the long-term energy deficit does create some stress on your body. You can be holding on to some inflammation. It can also do some things to your digestion to just slow things down. And so by giving your body more energy, it's like it cues the metabolism to ramp up again. And so you can actually be in a state where your metabolism starts firing and you actually do burn some more fat faster. It can also just help you get rid of some water retention and inflammation, and then just speed up digestion. And so you actually see the number on the scale drop. And that freaked me out, but I was also like, okay, this is good. I'm feeling better. My strength is coming back. And I'm actually seeing my body react to this way. So this is a good call. And I decided to do that essentially through week 10 into week 11 because I didn't really put it fully into place until halfway through the week. And it's put me in this really interesting place because it's coming to a close here, week 11, and there's technically one more week. And I'm like, well, do I go back to my calorie deficit to try to like squeak out one more pound of body weight lost, or am I shifting into something new here? And it was like immediately, as soon as I asked myself that question, I realized I was shifting into something new. And that supports my big question around this, right? I came to this thinking like, how much can I change my body? How much can I actually shift in terms of a new relationship with how I listen and react, and then the habits that are supporting my goals that I want to achieve? And I realize the place that I'm at, I'm really happy with. And I don't see a benefit from continuing to push in this mode anymore. I've got this long-term goal of wanting to get stronger this year. And so I think I'm done. And it's really interesting because I could look at this situation and be critical and say, "Oh, I'm not finishing, right? I'm ending before the final week." But it actually feels really good because it feels like I'm starting the next chapter, the new thing. And that's what this has all been about for me, to find this new relationship, this new way to be. And so I'm excited to step into this new phase, to continue to be in these practices that I feel really good in, but also achieve some new goals of getting stronger. Um, and yeah, that leaves me in a really excited place. And it's not without its own challenges and difficulties. One thing that I've experienced in the past that I even experienced this shift, like I was talking about in a diet break, going back to your maintenance, it's actually a bit more complicated than it sounds because let's say um, you do know what your maintenance calories were at the beginning, so whatever your starting weight might have been. The reality is you are less human, you're less body once you've lost some weight, whether be it muscle or fat. Like there's just less calories needed to maintain that amount of human. And so maintenance calories is a new number. And it is not a perfect science in figuring out what that new number is. Some people talk about doing a reverse diet where you add 100 or 200 calories a week, and you just continue to add week by week until you find a stasis where you're not losing any weight and you're also not putting on any weight. I've seen other people that just argue to just go straight to adding about 300 or 400 calories because that's generally like a good number that people see where they land in their new maintenance. So, this period of finding the new normal, the new maintenance, is going to be its own experience of rebalancing and figuring out what the new normal is. And this is one of the things that I'm empowered by that I hope comes across. And however I've talked about this, that even though I'm sharing with you how I've gone about this is about me finding my way. And my hope would be that you're inspired to find your own way and know that it's not going to look like anyone else's. There'll be things that are shared, but how you relate to your body is as unique and individual as you. And it's why following a plan, following a program, even this beautiful thing that I found with this ProPhysique 90-day challenge that has really been the conduit of so much knowledge and support from other people and learning. It's been amazing. But it feels right, poetic. Yeah, that I am leaving or finished or moving on to the next step before this is done. It's almost like my body is saying, like, yeah, we got what we needed, and this has always been about finding our own way. So let's go find our own way. We don't need anyone in this world to check the box to tell us that we did it right, or to show us the way anymore. So there's something satisfying and confirming to me about that. For now, I think that wraps up this whole 90-day period. There'll be other podcasts and conversations with people, and I'm sure some of them will have to do with the body because this is a lifelong pursuit of mine and journey. But for now, I think this is the end of this chapter. Thanks for listening and following along. And yeah, be well. All right, until next time, peace.